From the land of lakes, this is 10,000 Takes, brought to you by Minnesota Score Radio. Wally and Eric back for yet another week as we slice and dice the always busy, always topical, super saturated Twin Cities sports scene. And Wally, normally we're on the radio, but we're back on television today. It's episode number 6, the joy of 6. How about that?
6 in the books. We're only one short of Viking wins right now.
Yeah, and maybe next week at this time we will have equaled the Minnesota Vikings because their next game's a huge challenge.
Yeah, going to Green Bay at Lambeau, single-digit temperatures, Sunday night football, all those things that make up the recipe for disaster for the Minnesota Vikings. Although, let's face it, they did beat Green Bay earlier this year, but it was in the warmth and comforts of U.S. Bank Stadium, although U.S. Bank Stadium wasn't so comforting on Sunday for the Vikings against the Rams.
The House of Noise wasn't as loud as normal on Sunday. I couldn't believe how sluggish the Vikings started in a game that had high stakes. And the Rams, of course, they punched a playoff ticket with the win. But the fan base wasn't exactly revved up. Maybe they were overdosed on eggnog. And, it was that, trying to recover from Christmas and all the celebration and the euphoria from that. But I'll tell you what, it wasn't very loud.
No, it wasn't. And the Vikings didn't feed on whatever, momentum they had from their 2 wins prior to this week, coming back into this game against the Rams. They controlled their own destiny coming into the game. And now they don't. No, and they're going to need help. They're going to have to win both games, and they're going to need some outside help. And, first and foremost, they're going to have to go to Green Bay and win at Lambeau. And, boy, that has just not been a great thing. And the way the Packers are playing, they just got by the Browns on Saturday on Christmas Day, but Aaron Rodgers finds ways to win football games.
Yeah, he really does, even though he's got a bad toe.
Bum toe.
It was re-injured in the game against Cleveland. That game more than likely will have a lot of meaning for Green Bay in terms of garnering that top seed and making sure that whatever they do in the postseason, wherever they play, it'll be in Titletown out there in the NF elements, as I call it. So, it's going to be an extremely difficult challenge for the Vikings. Now, Minnesota's the only team, though, in the NFC North to be able to beat Matt LaFleur and Green Bay. As you said, they did it here in Minneapolis in November, and they did it a year ago at an empty Lambeau in the COVID season. So the Vikings have had some success against Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers, but I think this one is going to be really it's climbing Mount Everest.
Yeah.
And can you do it? And Aaron Rodgers right now is playing at MVP levels. I mean, this guy's pinpoint, he's precision-like, he's accurate, and he's Captain Cool.
Yeah, he may be MVP for the second straight season. You don't see that very often in the NFL, but he's working his way towards that. I thought, and if you look at the numbers, Kirk Cousins on Sunday, he had threw for over 300 yards.
Yep.
Had the one pick, which really wasn't his fault. I mean, the ball...
It was a red zone interception.
Red zone interception, but KJ Osborne probably should have had that football, or could have had it. I guess that's the best way to put it. But the throw he made to Alexander Madison on that third down where they were, at about the 6 or 7 yard line, and they needed to they had 3rd and 5 or 6, and they needed to get into the end zone, and Madison wasn't even close to the end zone. I mean, there was no chance that was going to be a first down. And on that play, Justin Jefferson was available, was open, and Kirk didn't find him. He didn't see him, or he couldn't wait another split second for Jefferson to get open. Whatever the case is, they had 8 passes in the red zone, and he targeted Jefferson once. That's got to happen more often than not.
Yeah, for sure. And you also have to factor in that the LA Rams, who are a solid defensive team, there's no doubt they paid a lot of attention to Justin Jefferson. If I'm going to scheme against the Minnesota Vikings, I'm going to make life miserable for this young second-year wideout from LSU who's putting up record-setting numbers. I mean, as far as, reception yardage, in 2 seasons, he's number 1, ahead of OBJ, ahead of Randy Moss. So I would press him, I would jam him, I would reroute him.
Yeah.
But as you said, the Vikings have to figure out a way to get him more involved, especially in the red zone. So it was one of those games on Sunday, too, where the Los Angeles Rams are a very good team. I think they're extremely well coached. Sean McVay, 4 trips to the playoffs now in 5 years. That's pretty good. But Matthew Stafford,
oh my
goodness, he was like a pitcher who couldn't find the strike zone. The 3 picks, a lot of bad throws. I think the Rams would have been better off with his good buddy Clayton Kershaw playing quarterback.
Except if it was the playoffs. Clayton's not very good in the postseason.
Well, he did get a ring in 2020.
Yeah, barely. That's a COVID year. That doesn't count.
Well, it still counts in L.A. But it was a struggle for Stafford, and so it was right there for the Vikings to be able to pounce on an opportunity, and they did not. And I thought, to me, the pivot point in the game, the Vikings had gotten it down to 13-10.
Right.
And the fan base was starting to get revved up. And then you had this Brandon Powell, 61 yards to the house, not making the fair catch, taking that punt, and going down the far sideline. To me, that was the turning point.
Yeah, I thought so too. That changed the dynamic of the football game because, as you said, the Vikings had worked it back to 13-10, and they had the football with an opportunity to either tie or take the lead. They end up punting, and bad things happen after that, and so they lose the game 30-23. But I go back to, and you mentioned Justin Jefferson, and the fact that, he was only targeted once in the red zone. He did have over 100 yards again. He had his numbers were good. But he let it be known afterwards, and not in a bad way, but he was honest in that press conference afterwards saying, I don't call the plays, I just do what I'm told. That basically is what he said. And obviously he doesn't call the plays, and obviously he's doing what he's told, but they need to find him. They need to be more aggressive in that red zone.
Well, they do. And I also think that numbers, somebody once said liars figure and figures lie. I think the numbers for the Vikings, the stats were a little deceiving. A big chunk of their offensive yardage came on their final offensive possession. That's when they moved the ball at will against the Rams, and they got down there and scored quickly and cut it to a one-score deficit. Remember, they got the touchdown, and then they got a field goal, and then it didn't work out. But point is, they lost, and now they have to regroup and find a way to win in Green Bay.
Yeah, no question, and that's not going to be easy.
All right, we've got a lot more coming up. We're going to talk to a Hall of Famer this week. Warren Moon will join us. This is 10,000 Takes, your Purple Ticket.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision. It's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Hello, I'm attorney Lee Hutton. From my time playing football for the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers back in the 90s, to my current work in the courtroom with some of the most high-profile cases in the country. No matter the fight, I am there. I've represented and won cases for major corporations all the way to the everyday individual. From family law to entertainment law, contracts to trial litigation. I'm committed to my clients in presenting their story. Please contact me at lhutton@thehuttonfirm.com.
From the first time you pick up a tuned-up custom rod, you'll know you're holding something special. A rod not mass-produced, but built one at a time by the hands of gifted craftsmen. Rods like the Precision, ice fishing's most versatile multi-species rod, or the Precision Noodle with a tip so sensitive you'll never fish a spring bobber again. And the Commander, the rod that's never met a big fish it couldn't best. Tuned-up custom rods. Ice rods handcrafted for you and the way you fish.
10,000 Takes, Wally and Eric with you, and we're going to talk some more Minnesota Vikings football, and we're going to talk with a former Viking quarterback and Hall of Famer Warren Moon joins us now in the Zoom room. Warren, happy holidays first and foremost, and secondly, those Minnesota Vikings lose another game by one score. And it has kind of been their MO this year. Every single game they have played this season has been a one-score game, and Sunday's loss to the Rams, no different than that. What in the world is going on with the Vikings?
Yeah, well, let me first start off by saying happy holidays to you guys as well. Hopefully you had a great Christmas, and it's too bad that the Vikings, they're a team that just seems like they can't make the big play when they need big play made, because they've lost I don't know how many games this year by one score or less. Yesterday was another indication of that, and I know there's a lot of frustration on that football team right now because they're so close to being a really, really good football team. They just have to find those couple of different plays to either make a stop on defense or be able to make that big play on the offense. And that just hasn't happened consistently enough this year. That's why they find themselves right now battling for a playoff spot.
Yeah, and Warren, on Sunday, Matthew Stafford was like a pitcher who couldn't find the strike zone. 3 picks. He had balls that were bouncing to receivers, and yet the Rams found a way to win. Big picture, though, can Matthew Stafford take the Rams where they want to go?
He's got to be a little bit more consistent if he is going to do that, because that's what we've seen. We've seen him have some games like he did last week where he throws 3 touchdown passes. Then we see a game like this week against the Vikings where he throws 3 interceptions. So, if you're going to have a quarterback that's going to take you all the way, he's got to be a little bit more consistent, especially down the stretch of the season when these games mean so much. So he's fortunate to come out of that game yesterday with a win on the road. But the Vikings didn't help themselves by taking advantage of all those opportunities they had, because he was giving them the football. When you get 3 turnovers like that, that usually means you win a football game. But for some reason, the Vikings just aren't able to make those turnovers into winning plays for them and win the games.
Talk a little bit about the 2 wide receivers, a couple of elite wide receivers playing in this football game. Cooper Kupp for the Los Angeles Rams, and, of course, Justin Jefferson for the Minnesota Vikings. Both of them had over 100 yards. Both of them had an impact. How big of a difference does it make for a quarterback to have guys like that on your roster?
Oh, it's huge for a quarterback to have a receiver with that type of caliber, because those are the type of guys you go to in big play situations when you know you need a big completion. When you get down in the red zone, those are the guys you want to target because you know they're going to make the right decision as far as the defense is being played, and they're also usually going to beat their guy one-on-one if it's a man-for-man defense. So I had a guy like that in Chris Carter when I played for the Vikings, and it's so comforting for a quarterback to have a guy that wants the football, that's going to be very aggressive to the football when it's in the air, and usually will come down with it most of the time in a 50-50 situation. So, yeah, it's huge to have receivers of that caliber.
Yeah, and every quarterback wants a safety net. Sunday Night Football, an incident between Washington and Dallas, Warren, garnering a lot of attention. Darren Payne and Jonathan Allen, they get into a dust-up. A punch was thrown on the Washington football team bench. And you remember back in the 90s playing for the Houston Oilers, and I saw this game too. Buddy Ryan threw a punch at Kevin Gilbride. The coaches got into it. You were right there, weren't you?
I was right there on the sidelines because I was talking to Kevin about offense at the time, and Buddy was not happy with a play call that Kevin had made because he wanted us to run the clock out right before the half was over. But we threw the ball again, and an interception was thrown by our backup quarterback, Cody Carlson, who was playing for me that day. And Buddy was upset his defense had to go back out on the field and finish the half off. So that's when the altercation happened on the sideline, and Buddy threw a punch at Kevin. And, football and sports in general are very emotional games. They're very intense. It doesn't take a whole lot to sometimes, make a guy, just go off. And in that particular situation, that happened. And you saw 2 guys on the Washington Redskins who happened to be really good friends and played together in college at the University of Alabama. They took a punch at each other. So it gets highly emotional down there, and sometimes a little bit too stressful, and sometimes tempers flare and you do things you regret you did later on.
Justin Jefferson, as we talked about, such a key part of the Viking offense, but he was only targeted once in the red zone out of 8 red zone throws by Kirk Cousins on Sunday. And some of that bled out in the post-game press conference, saying that he doesn't call the plays, he just does what he is told. Is there anything that we should make out of this? Is this a frustration coming through? Is this him just saying, hey, throw me the ball? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think it's more just frustration by Justin and probably a lot of guys on that football team. Like I said earlier, they're losing a lot of games by, a touchdown or less. And he feels like he probably could have made the play that helps them win a football game. But you also have to look at the tape and see what the quarterback is looking at. Maybe he's being doubled down there. If I'm a defensive team, I'm gonna double Justin Jefferson when you get in the red zone because that's how good a player he is. So Kirk Cousins is going to go away from anybody who's being double teamed. That's what a quarterback is taught to do. So it just depends on the situation. I haven't seen the tape. I don't know exactly what Kirk was seeing, but that could be the reason why they didn't go to him a lot, because he was getting doubled down in the red zone.
In the eyes of Warren Moon, if the Minnesota Vikings miss the postseason, is Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman in trouble? Do they survive this?
I think they should survive it because their team has been very, very competitive each and every game, and they haven't lost these games because of coaching decisions or things like that. This has been another unusual season because of COVID and the amount of guys the teams have lost from week to week. You don't always have the most consistent lineup each and every week. Their running back Cook has been out a lot, so I don't think this is a reason to fire these two guys because their team is still competitive and going into the playoffs, and they've been competitive in most of their football games.
And you mentioned Dalvin Cook. He, of course, missed the game against the Rams. I think that changes the play action, too. I don't think the Rams bite on play action as much if it's Alexander Mattison back there as opposed to Dalvin Cook. Would you agree with that?
Oh, no question about it. And there's just much more focus on the defense with Dalvin Cook into the football game to try and stop him. They're going to play a little bit more 8 in the box to make sure they defend against the run. So, yeah, he makes a big difference when he's in the game or he's not in the game. And so that's going to have an impact on how the Vikings play as an offense. And then I think Kirk Cousins is a much better play-action passer than he is a regular drop-back passer. So when you don't have a Cook in the game, then all of a sudden that takes away some of the strengths of Kirk Cousins. So, yeah, he makes an impact on the game. There's no question about it.
Warren, Minnesota's off to the frozen tundra of Green Bay Sunday night in what amounts to a must-win victory for the Vikings. Aaron Rodgers, I mean, he's playing in another galaxy. I believe he stays in Green Bay. It's too good of a situation to leave. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he stays as well, especially if they go to a Super Bowl. How do you go to a Super Bowl and then leave the team because you're unhappy? They have an excellent defense now. They're going to get some other guys back into the lineup that's going to make their defense even better. And he's going to get a couple of guys back on the offense. Bakhtiari, his left tackle, and a couple of other guys are going to come back and make this team even stronger. So why would you leave a football team like this as long as you're able to get along with the general manager and the coach? And it sounds like they're all on the same page again. So I think Aaron Rodgers stays in Green Bay, but, stranger things have happened.
They currently are the number 1 seed in the NFC. Is Tampa the nearest threat to them? Who do you think the biggest threat to the Packers is right now?
Yeah, I think in the NFC, the Packers are the biggest threat to them. The Bucs are, because the Bucs, even though they've lost some guys here in the last couple of weeks injury-wise, they had a lot of depth. And we saw Antonio Brown come in and play this week and go for over 100 yards. He still has Gronk. They've still got some really good players on the offensive side, but they also have a great defense that can step up and shut teams down like they did yesterday. So I still think they're the second best team, and I think those two are going to face each other in the NFC Championship again, and it's probably going to be in Green Bay.
Ooh, and it'll probably be just as cold as it was or is going to be for the Vikings there next Sunday. Warren, appreciate you spending some time with us. Again, happy holidays, happy New Year to you, and we will talk to you again prior to the Super Bowl for sure.
All right, great talking to you guys. Happy New Year, and hopefully the Vikings can pull one out this week so they can make a way into the playoffs somehow.
Thanks, Warren.
All right.
All right, guys.
He is Warren Moon, Hall of Fame quarterback, of course, former Minnesota Viking, right here on 10,000 Takes. We'll be back with more after this timeout. Stay with us.
Hello, I'm attorney Lee Hutton. From my time playing football for the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers back in the 90s, to my current work in the courtroom with some of the most high-profile cases in the country. No matter the fight, I am there. I've represented and won cases for major corporations all the way to the everyday individual. From family law to entertainment law, contracts to trial litigation. I'm committed to my clients in presenting their story. Please contact me at lhutton@thehuttonfirm.com.
From the first time you pick up a tuned-up custom rod, you'll know you're holding something special. A rod not mass-produced, but built one at a time by the hands of gifted craftsmen. Rods like the Precision, ice fishing's most versatile multi-species rod, or the Precision Noodle with a tip so sensitive you'll never fish a spring bobber again. And the Commander, the rod that's never met a big fish it couldn't best. Tuned up custom rods. Ice rods handcrafted for you and the way you fish.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Ten 10,000 takes. Wally and Eric with you. And as I look at the calendar, as January 1st turns, so does the weather. And the Minnesota Wild will be busy. They will be outdoors at Target Field. And I just took a peek at the forecast. It's going to be a chilly one. The high for the day, 9 above. So you can live with that. But let's remember, this is a 6 p.m. face-off. Game's on TNT. It's not on NBC in the afternoon. The overnight low, 15 below. So bundle up, Minnesota Wild and Wild fans. You want outdoor hockey? You got it, baby.
Yeah, you're exactly right. This is going to be the NHL's version of the Ice Bowl, which, of course, was way back in 1967 in Green Bay when it was minus 13 degrees. Dallas Cowboys, Green Bay Packers. That's epic. That's the stuff that people talk about. Well, this potentially could be as cold, maybe even colder. So it'll be hockey with North Pole-like elements. I know a few years ago, you and I were at the Seattle Seahawks Minnesota Vikings playoff game at then TCF Bank Stadium. It was -6, third coldest game in the history of the NFL. And boy, that was a challenge. We stood outside for it. So Minnesota's waited for a long time to get this crown jewel event on the NHL calendar, right?
Yep.
They've got it, and the fans are going to have to be hardcore. Layer up.
Yeah,
big time.
That's for sure. Layer up. All right, as we move to Jan 1, Eric and I have come up with some sports resolutions for the upcoming year, and I'll kick it off. I resolve in 2022 to never go back to U.S. Bank Stadium for a Minnesota Vikings game without earplugs. Now, granted, the crowd was somewhat subdued in the Rams game, but the music wasn't. It just made, as I told you, made my ears bleed. I mean, they just blast it, and it goes on, and I'm not sure that helps the fan base or not, but I know what it gives me. It gives me a headache.
Yeah, and you probably have hearing problems related to the games you've covered at U.S. Bank Stadium.
Boy, you're
and
right.
Before that, the Metrodome.
You're right.
Well, I resolve to enjoy the greatness of the 4 superstars we have in this market. Justin Jefferson, J-Jets as they call him, explosive, unbelievable wideout. Byron Buxton, acrobatic center fielder for the Minnesota Twins, who's Spider-Man out there, right? I mean, taking away home runs from opposing batters. Kirill Kaprizov, who will be on ice literally on New Year's Day at that Winter Classic. He is gifted. I mean, he may be the Wild's version of Alexander Ovechkin or Wayne Gretzky or somebody like that. I mean, it's early to label him in that category, but he's good. We know that. He's a game changer. And then, of course, Anthony Edwards. He's fun. He's a human highlight film out of Georgia, just like Dominique Wilkins was back in the day, who played for the Georgia Bulldogs. I say to myself, enjoy their greatness, because there's a chance they may leave Minnesota someday. That's the history.
Well, most, if not all of them, someday will be playing
enjoy them
somewhere
while
else.
All they're here.
And winning a championship somewhere else, too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like David Ortiz.
Kevin Garnett.
Yeah. Shall I go on?
Yes.
All right. I resolve in 2022 not to get sucked in again by the Wild and the Wolves too early in the season. Now, the Minnesota Wild do find themselves on top of the Central Division, and that's okay. But they do come into this game on New Year's, the NHL's Winter Classic, with a 4-game skid under their belts. I was getting all giddy about them for a while there, thinking, hey, this is the squad. This is the team that you can hitch your wagon to. Pump the brakes on that. And then the Timberwolves, hovering around 500. They were at 500 not that long ago. Pump the brakes on that, too. COVID sets in, and they have issues.
All right, well, I resolve to hike parts of the Ice Age Trail. Believe it or not, we have here in the Midwest, flyover country, right?
Yeah.
We have a trail in Wisconsin. It's not quite the Pacific Crest Trail out west or the Appalachian Trail on the East Coast, but this is a renowned trail. We had a guest on a few months ago, Emily Ford from Duluth Superior. She hiked the whole thing in the winter, and it goes up in Door County, and then the western terminus, though, is Interstate Park, right on the St. Croix River, Minnesota-Wisconsin border. So my resolution is to get out and try to hike the Ice Age Trail in chunks and see what it's like.
Wow. If you're not cold, you will be.
No, I might wait till spring or
All
summer.
right. Coming up next, it's our takes of the day. Stay with us.
Very good.
I've been meaning to give you these for many years. I think they're perfect.
Maya?
Oh, I love your earring. Why didn't you try these?
It isn't just about vision, it's about care. Nobody cares for eyes more than Pearl.
Hello, I'm attorney Lee Hutton. From my time playing football for the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers back in the 90s, to my current work in the courtroom with some of the most high-profile cases in the country. No matter the fight, I am there. I've represented and won cases for major corporations all the way to the everyday individual. From family law to entertainment law, contracts to trial litigation. I'm committed to my clients in presenting their story. Please contact me at lhutton@thehuttonfirm.com.
$10K Takes on television. Wally and Eric with you. Happy New Year. Time for Takes of the Day. What is your mood? Cranky Yankee, angry American, giddy Guardian, grumpy Guardian. What's it going to be?
Well, as I got to the press box on Sunday for the Vikings and Rams game, you sent me this text and said, boy, it's been awfully quiet in this building. And apparently Mike Zimmer felt it. The players felt it. And to me, it sounded to me like they were using it as an excuse. As a matter of fact, Mike Zimmer was in the pregame huddle trying to fire his team up. Do we really need that? Do you really have to have the fans buzzing in order for you to be fired up for your football game? Justin Jefferson mentioned it after the game. Anthony Barr mentioned it after the game. Were those the only two guys that were fired up for this football game? You controlled your own destiny. All you had to do was win, 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 and you're in the postseason. Now you lost. Now you need help. And to not be fired up for a game where you control your own destiny, do you have to have your back completely against the wall to be fired up for a football game? I don't get it. You get paid a lot of money. You should be able to get fired up for a game that means everything.
Yeah, high-stakes football, no doubt. Mood meter says, grumpy Guardian.
Uh-oh.
You're not happy.
No.
Vikings not fired up for a high-stakes football game.
No.
Go figure. All right, well, I'm going to try to put everybody in a good mood. Some cheery things did happen at that Rams-Vikings game, even though the Purple lost. Tony Oliva, he sounded the Gallahorn before the game. He had a purple number 6 jersey on. It was great to see Tony O at U.S. Bank Stadium. He's on his way to the Baseball Hall of Fame. And then later on, during the game, in one of the timeouts, Michelle Young from The Bachelorette showed up. I mean, it was a big deal, and she was down there on the field turf. I know a lot of the players were checking her out, but she's engaged, so she's off the market. But she is Minnesota's very own Michelle Young, and of course, she had a Viking jersey on too. The bad news is neither Tony O nor Michelle Young could fire up your Minnesota Vikings.
And they didn't fire up the fans either. They were kind of quiet most of the day.
All right, we got to go. Let's FedEx out those thank yous. Wanda Stewart and Dave and all of our crew that made this show possible. Rocky, Warren Moon, for Wally, I'm Eric saying Happy New Year. This is 10,000 Takes, your sports pick.